one side of the river. It wasn't the way she had come, but she knew the coastal highway ran parallel to the river. If she could get to the highway, she could follow it back to where her car was parked and avoid any further questions. Questions she couldn't answer. Wasn't allowed to answer. The dense woods grew darker the deeper she went, making the path difficult to see, if she was even on a path. Too dark to tell. Large roots climbed out of the ground and forced her to slow to avoid tripping over them. Humidity thickened the air, and Lane's chest squeezed with each breath. As she passed beneath a low branch, a vile odor washed over her. She jolted to a stop. What is that? The odorous assault made Lane's head swim and her stomach rebel. Was it a dead animal? She didn't want to find out. Forcing herself to breathe through her mouth, Lane searched for a way out of the overgrown brush surrounding her. Where was she? She pressed forward, guessing the direction of escape. What if she was heading back to the river or deeper into the trees? A noise spooked her, and she spun around. Her eyes searched the darkness for the source of the sound. A squirrel? A twig snapped, and Lane's gaze swung to the right. Was the man from the bridge following her? You're being paranoid. Rain began to penetrate the canopy of branches overhead and run into rivulets, churning the ground into sticky mud. Lane covered her mouth and nose with both hands and backed up, but something grabbed her foot and pitched her backward onto the ground. Ouch. She scowled at the tangle of thick roots stretching from the massive tree next to her and adjusted the straps of her backpack, thankful she hadn't landed on it. Trying hard not to breathe in the toxic air, Lane used the tree to steady herself and free her foot, but stopped when her hand landed on a shoe? Lane froze. It was a tennis shoe, laces untied, attached to a foot, and then a leg, and then a body. Ah! Blank eyes on a bluish-green face stared up at her. Lane scrambled, digging her fingers into the mud to get away from the body. A swarm of black flies buzzed around her head, angry, like she had interrupted their morbid feast. Bile choked Lane's ability to scream again. Run! Move! Lane clawed at the tree next to her, ignoring the way the bark cut into her palms as she yanked herself up. Finding her footing, she backed away from the lifeless body and ran. Branches slapped at her arms and face as fear chased her into the darkness. The scream stopped Charlie Lynch in his tracks, even as his pulse jackhammered in his ears. It came from his left. He dropped his bike and surged forward, ignoring the twigs catching on his skin. That was distress. It didn't take 6 weeks at the police academy or 6 years as a Marine MP to recognize it. It was her, the woman from the bridge. Charlie had no problem recalling the features of her face, even as she tried to hide it behind a curtain of auburn hair. Green eyes awash with emotion so deep, they revealed the answer to his question that she didn't answer. What had brought her to the edge of that bridge? Sad hazel eyes and a lopsided smile flashed in Charlie's mind. Tate Roberts. How many conversations had he shared with him in Afghanistan? And how many times had Tate stared at death as the only answer until he'd allowed it to swallow him? Was that what he saw in the woman's gaze? Defeat? The kind that stole life? Or was he jumping to conclusions? Charlie ground his molars and raced in the direction he thought he had heard the scream come from. He had to find her, make sure she was okay. He wouldn't fail. Not this time. A movement to his left captured his attention, and he instinctively reached for the weapon he no longer carried. Biting back a curse, he forced himself to take a breath. This wasn't a war zone. It was Walton, Georgia, and about as idyllic as a Norman Rockwell painting. And the peaceful charm was exactly why Charlie had chosen the small town to call home. This was not